Welcome to episode 3 of the Flag Down Pod. Tonight it'll be myself, Andy. You can find me on Twitter at Comiskey North. And I will be joined by our co-host, Matt. Matthew, how's it going?
Andrew, doing well. How are you?
Oh, living the dream.
Atta boy.
Hard not to after 3-0 today, huh?
I said it last week, a tale of two halves, and it was the epitome of that today. You saw it right away. It looked like Tottenham was kind of a very formidable opponent, and then we had the switch, and then everything changed.
Yeah, and I had an interesting perspective on it. As I was telling you and Parker earlier, I had to go coach my son's soccer team at halftime. So I actually didn't watch the second half until about an hour before recording this. So I had some time to sit and ponder about the first half and then really kind of get into that second half already knowing the result. And yeah, I would agree. It was two separate games, 100%. But before we get into the game, what are you drinking tonight?
Tonight I am having a glass of bourbon. It is called Black Saddle. It is it's a 12-year age bourbon, and it is quite delicious. I can't say I'm upset.
There you go.
What about you? What do you have?
Got some Platte Valley 100% corn whiskey.
Oh boy, very nice.
Mix that with a little Sprite. Not too bad.
Nice. Love to hear it. Is that the stuff that you got in Kansas City?
No, I just got to pick this up. Shameless plug here if you're in the Milwaukee area. Discount Liquor. Great.
Very nice. Yep.
Great supply of whiskeys and bourbons.
Very big fan of that place.
Absolutely. After a rough go for the Junior Saints today, it was needed.
Yeah, how did Aiden's game go? Not the best.
We played doubleheader in 90-degree weather. Came back from 0-4 at halftime in the first one and lost 5-7, and then lost the second one probably about 10-0.
Well. Hey, it is what it is, right? They're out there, they're having fun, and you kind of have to roll with the punches at that point, especially with your brand new managerial career kind of taking shape.
Absolutely. With Darby County going into administration, maybe I can take over them.
Hey, there's always a chance.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the matches. We'll touch briefly, just a bit to begin, on the midweek clash with St. Petersburg. 1-0 win with Lukaku scoring the winner.
It honestly should have been a lot more than that. I think, and I'm sure that we're going to hit on this a lot more kind of as we go into the Spurs match today. But, that last touch or that last pass to kind of clear Rom into space, it wasn't there. There were so many chances where, you could have found him on just that through ball, and, a fair amount of it came from Mason Mount, and he just has not looked up to par right now. So I think that match could have easily been, 2-3-0. But it's just the fact that, like, we just needed that extra pass to get through to Rom, and I think he was in all day. He bodied that defense. He was in great positions. He just didn't get the touches on the runs that he was making, and I think it's not any fault of his because he's doing everything right. It's just we were just lacking that quality to give him the service that he needed.
Yeah, and we will touch on it again later, but I thought Mount was poor. It's certainly not a rip against the kid. He just, for whatever reason, has not started the season off well. Whether that be playing in the Euros over the summer, or just not having it. You got to keep in mind he's only 23 years old, so he's going to have his ups and downs, just like Pulisic is having. Just like some of the other young guys, Timo Werner. But it was especially poor in the Zenit match. Looking at his stats here, 3 unsuccessful touches, dispossessed twice. Overall rated a 7.04 on whoscored.com with 83% passing percentage. When we only play with 3 at the front, we need more precision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like he, so I want to phrase this the right way. Like he was creating like his own space, but his passing was not what I would expect. And maybe that's just the fact that he's had a year and a half on the first team, and we've come to know him. We have such high expectations for him based on what he's done before, but most of that was under Frank, and maybe under Tuchel's new system, like it just might not be. It's going to take him some time to get used to it, but it just seems like he's struggling to kind of find where he needs to be and what he needs to do. And I kind of mentioned it last time, like he's trying to be that person that's almost like an Eden Hazard, where like he would just bring defenders on, he would go at defenders, but Eden Hazard wasn't really known for his assist category. Like that was not really his big thing. His ability was to just take people on and then kind of move from that point. But I think Mason started that way, and now he's trying to kind of reinvent himself under a new system, and I think he's kind of struggling with that, and it's kind of exposing a weakness in his game.
Yeah, and again, we'll touch a little bit more on him in a little while. But the other, I would say, the other big key player in that match was Big Rom. Obviously, it's his 4th goal in as many matches for the club, and another night where he just made something out of nothing.
Yeah, he has such a big presence, and like when I was listening to the pregame for the Spurs match today, I kind of thought back because I think it was Arlo that said something like, just his ability to just hold up play and hold defenders. Like he is almost more comfortable with defenders on his back than he is going forward. And that's a very rare thing for a striker, especially one who can be comfortable in that and then create out of nothing, like you said. It's just a testament to kind of where he's grown as he's kind of moved off from Chelsea to Everton to Man U, and then finally kind of made his way back. But he's a completely different player than we knew previously, and I think that now we're starting to see what all the hype was about when he was when he was a youngster. We're starting to see that promise, and we're starting to see that capability that everybody's talked about when he was younger, and seeing it come to fruition and seeing him kind of come back home, it's been great.
And, like I said, this is his fourth match back with the club. Imagine how this is going to look in 15 matches, in 20 matches, when these guys have some reps together, when Mason is back to regular form, when Ziyech and first of all, Ziyech and Big Rom seem to have a great relationship to begin with. But to translate that out on the pitch, I think you might have a Golden Boot winner in Big Rom once things start to gel a little bit.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, his form right now is honestly, it's probably one of the best I've seen in a long time. Yeah, you can throw Cristiano in there if you really want to, but
He's a poacher.
They haven't really played anybody of legitimate caliber unless you look at the game today with West Ham, but that's a completely different topic. No, I think that he's come into his own. He's grown into the player that everybody thought that he could be. And now he's able to come back and show that against, top caliber teams. And, if you look back at Chelsea's schedule, it's not like we're playing slouches of teams, especially early in the season. Like we're not playing, we're not playing like a Burnley, we're not playing like a Norwich, things like that. Like we're not going up against teams like that. These are all good quality teams that could, for a majority of it, could contend for the Premier League title. And he's proving himself, and I think that's the biggest thing. And you and me, Parker, we've talked about this for I don't know how many years. We need that deadly striker. We need that clinical finisher. And I think Rom is the perfect person that kind of fills that gap because we had Giroud, who was good in hold up, he was good link up, and now we have somebody who now has pace and can do all of those things that Giroud could do, and it's honestly it's a deadly combo that Rom is able to possess. And I completely agree. The more that he grows into the Premier League season, the more that he grows into the new team, and he grows into Tuchel style, like it's only going to be good things going forward.
And hopefully it keeps on being good things going forward. We got off on the right foot in the Champions League there. Good 3 points. Typically the benchmark is 10 points to go through to the next round. So, out of the next five matches, you need 2 points a match. So definitely out on the right foot there. And speaking out on the right foot, let's talk about league-leading Chelsea after today's 3-0 win over Spurs.
What a game! There was a lot of emotion from all three of us in our group chat. There was a lot of emotion going back and forth. Like I said, tale of two halves. First half, Tottenham looked good. I probably won't say that often, but Tottenham looked good. And granted, they have a lot of injuries. They're under a new manager, but they look good in the first half. And Chelsea looked kind of rattled. And as much as we love to kind of rag on Timmy Howard for not being a Chelsea fan, he kind of called it out. He just said, they're overloading the midfield, and I think that's completely accurate. Jorginho, I'm gonna try my best not to go down this path. Jorginho was not as effective as in a 3v2 situation in the midfield. He was not as effective. Like he just kind of looked kind of out of place. He kind of didn't know like what passes he should make. he was just making a lot of back passes and just kind of touches like that. But that first half alone, I mean, Thiago Silva, like, I don't even know where to start. He's going to be 37 in a few days, and he's still outplaying almost everybody. Like, when you have that combination of Son and Kane up top, and he's still able to do what he needs to do and be an effective defender, it speaks volumes to his knowledge of the game and like his positioning, where he needs to be, what is the only option that an attacker has against him. His positioning and the way that he reads the game is so invaluable, and he definitely displayed that in the first half. And Christensen, I thought he played very well today. Rudy, obviously doing Rudy things, very solid. Kepa, a little suspect, kind of as we've come to know from Kepa, a little suspect in goal early on. Some things that kind of squirreled out on him, but he started to kind of come into his own. But yeah, I think that first half, you have to rely heavily on the defense and the defending, and I think that Christensen, Rudy, Thiago, they did an absolutely exceptional job.
Well, you know what? We'll get back to Thiago in just a moment. But you had mentioned Jorginho, and that's kind of the running thing on this pod. I saw it from a different perspective because yes, Jorginho did struggle, but so did Kova. Kovacic should not have his best game, and we talked about it in our group chat today, that his pace wasn't there. He didn't look himself, and that man has played a lot of matches, including during the international break. Does Jorginho need someone next to him in order to flourish? For example, Conte came on in the second half, and all of a sudden, Jorginho was again at the center of the offense. Had Conte started, do you think Jorginho would have had a different match?
Great question. I think, I don't know. For me, that's tough because we've obviously talked about this. Kova's played so much. If anybody on this team needs a break, it's probably him. The shift that he put in against Villa when Saul was struggling, was struggling a lot. The shift that he had to put in to try and counteract that, and then going the full 90, and then obviously he was in against Zenit, that's a tough ask, especially with his work rate and how much that he provides. He is an energy guy. He is a great defender. He makes those dashing runs. His passing, I think, is the most underrated thing about his entire game. He's able to hit those long through balls almost with pinpoint accuracy. It's something that I think goes, highly overlooked. I think it was just more the fact that he's tired. He just needed a break, and if Tuchel went up to him and just said, "You ready to go today?" He's the kind of person that's going to say, "Yeah, I'm ready to go." But he, obviously today he didn't have his best stuff. I thought that he did look tired. I thought that he looked kind of overworked. And going back to my thoughts on little George, he's not the best defender, and I think that Kova feels like he has to try and make up for that, but he's also making those darting runs forward that Jorginho won't make. So I think there's a lot of weight on his shoulders. I think there's a lot of pressure on him. And I think so far, he's done a great job to manage it. But at the same time, he needs a break. Like, he needs a breather. I personally don't see him playing in the League Cup against Villa. I really don't. I think I think him and probably Rom are in the most need of a break on anybody on the team.
Absolutely, and I think obviously with N'Golo Kante coming back off of a nagging ankle injury, I don't think he should have started. He did not start. That was a great move by TT. But I think if you have a full strength Kova, that takes some of the defending away from Jorginho, and I think that's what causes Jorginho to struggle. I think he is capable in defense, but I don't think that it's his strong suit. So when Kova's struggling and Jorginho's asked to pull back a little bit into defense, I think those are the games that he's going to struggle. So I think balancing these four central mids is going to be crucial as to what kind of halves we see, because this is now twice in a row where you switch out one of the central mids and all of a sudden our second half goes from 0 to 60 in a couple minutes.
Yeah, definitely. And we talked about it, and as soon as I Parker and I kind of heard that that Conte was warming up like vigorously. I was like, okay, who's going to come in for? And I was thinking, maybe he's going to come in for Kova. Like, he just needs a break. But just to kind of divert in a different direction, Thomas Tuchel hasn't made a mistake. Like, everything that he does is so tactical, it's so smart, and like, he sees the game differently, and he doesn't put players' egos in front of anything. He goes, no, this is what's going to be best for the team, and this is the move that we're going to make. And I think that's one of the things that has been kind of lacking from a managerial perspective with Chelsea, because high profile club, you definitely have a lot of egos at play. But if the fact that he's been able to get everybody to buy into what he's trying to do, and he has the full support, to me, that speaks volumes. And he's only been there for a little over a year. So honestly, the way that I look at it, it's almost like he can't do wrong, because he's doing everything right when it needs to happen. And I think that's just kind of speaks to his genius as a manager, and just being able to understand the situation and what needs to happen.
And I think the difference between Tuchel at Chelsea compared to Tuchel at PSG is, at Chelsea, well, yes, we still have Thiago Silva, we have Dave, we have Marcos Alonso, we have a couple older players on the squad. It's primarily a young squad. Whereas at PSG, it was, let's just go buy the best player who's already 28 years old and in his prime. And I can see why he struggled there, because it's harder to get those guys to buy in. It's better. This is a better situation for him, because you have guys coming up through the youth ranks. You have guys looking to learn. You have guys looking to win. It's not necessarily about the personal awards. It's about going out there and winning matches. And so I think Tuchel has the right personnel that has gotten guys to buy in. Mount got subbed at halftime today. I don't think that's going to affect him. I think, just like Tim Howard said in the post game today, I think Mount is going to get a chance later on. He might get a chance on in the midweek against Villa, and I'm sure he'll take it because he is bought in, and it's great to see. It's something that you didn't see in the second season of Frank.
Yeah, I completely agree. Obviously Frank was, a new manager to the club where obviously he's a legend at, but I mean, we were all excited that Frank was going to be managing, but to an extent he did well. He brought the youth into the team, and he did a great job of that. Obviously we had the transfer ban or whatever, but he brought the youth into the team, and I think now you're starting to see more of that cohesion between, it's not just experience versus youth, it's buying into what we're trying to do, and understanding that it's not about the personal accolades or anything like that. It's about just trying to win. Obviously very early hot take, but we're in a very good position right now to win the Premier League, and obviously it's early on, but Champions League. Like, we've positioned ourselves very well. And listening to TT's interview after the match, it was fantastic, because he goes, we're a competitive team. We're not yet where we should be. And he even said that's not an excuse, but we're still able to pull out results, but we haven't played our best yet. And the fact that we're on top of the Premier League right now, we got our first match against Zenit out of the way in the Champions League. Like, if we're not playing our best right now, that's kind of scary. Like, for any other team that we go against, like, that's honestly a very scary situation.
So let me ask you this to close out our Tuchel talk. Is he the best manager in the world?
That's tough. I think right now he is, based on the amount of, like, the caliber on the bench that he has to throw in at any time. It's almost sickening. Like, okay, yeah, I'm going to start Jorginho and Kova, and then, yeah, I'm just going to throw in N'Golo Kante off the bench. Like, and then you have somebody like Timo Werner coming in off the bench. You could throw in Ziyech off the bench. You can throw, somebody like Reese or Ziyech. Like, he has so many options at his disposal. It's almost sickening, because like what do you do with all that? And the fact that he's able to manage all of those egos, because Ziyech, Timo, like, we paid a lot to bring him over, and the fact that now they're kind of that in between, you're either going to start or you're going to be on the bench, like, how to manage that. I think that, so the best analogy I can give would be like Chuck Daly with the Pistons in the 80s. Like, there were so many personalities going on there, and he was able to manage all of them. And I think Tuchel has been able to do a great job of that. And, obviously these high-profile players who might not always be starting, they've bought into his system. And I think that takes a great manager to set that kind of precedent early on in his tenure.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think right now Tuchel is the best manager in the world. Pep certainly was. He had a lot of great teams. He took a lot of teams that had not a lot. Granted, Barca and Bayern, they have a lot, but those Barca teams were on the fading years of that golden generation. Um, so I think Pep is up there. I think Mourinho is up there. But I think that's your top three right there. But I think, again, Tuchel's been in the position for less than a year, but he has more clean sheets than goals conceded. He never seems to miss on a sub, and he's willing to adjust. He's willing to be proactive with his tactics, which is something that most managers are not. That was I loved Maurizio Sarri, but that was my issue with him. My small issue that I never talk about was that he was so set in his ways, he would never adjust. Tuchel, if he sees something wrong, boom, halftime. He's going to change it. He's going to make a sub. He's going to change tactics. We're going to look completely different in the second half. And we've seen that consistently over the course of the past 9 months. So for me, Tuchel's the world's best at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And exactly what you said. His ability to throw ego aside and just be like, okay, I made a mistake, and here's how we're gonna counter it. Like, we have a different solution that we can use, and I'm not afraid to do it right at halftime. And watching and listening to his press interview after the game, I was hooked the entire time, because he said, I wasn't happy with our first half. I was not happy at all. But and he even talked about, like, we need more energy, we need more aggressiveness, we need to be more relentless, especially when it comes to like 50-50 balls and stuff like that. And I mean, who else is going to go after a 50-50 ball more than N'Golo Kante? Like, it made sense. Obviously him coming on for Mount, we had talked about that, but I personally think that it was the perfect decision, because they were getting kind of bossed around in the midfield. Kova wasn't himself. Jorginho defensively is a liability, but then you bring in somebody like N'Golo Kante, who can shore up the midfield. Kova can actually make his runs forward, and N'Golo Kante is going to be all over the place, and Jorginho can kind of fall back into his normal best strength, which is kind of distributing the ball. I think it was the best move that he could have made.
And speaking of good moves, what do you think of leading question there? But what do you think of Timo Werner's appearance?
Oh, Timo, very optimistic, I would say. He brought that spark of energy. He brought that ability to test the Tottenham defense, especially on the flanks. I thought his link-up play with Lukaku was really good. He's still lacking that confidence. That one of the chances that he had, where he just tried to roll it into the far corner when he could have just chipped it right over Lloris. That's something you see with somebody who has confidence. Like, they'll be able to do that. He's just trying to find the back of the goal any way that he can. I did think that his presence was definitely a difference maker. I mean, we didn't get nearly that many chances when we had, Mount on the pitch and Kai and things like that. But he's somebody that you have to respect, because he will make those runs. He has so much pace behind him. He's just lacking the confidence to finish off a goal. And we've talked about that for a while. And he started his career with Chelsea early on, just scoring at will, and then something happened, and he's just not himself. He just can't finish. You just can't finish off those goals the way that he used to and the way that we've kind of come to know him. And it's tough watching it, but you also understand the presence that he commands while being on the pitch.
All right, so this is my hot take.
Uh-oh.
Timo Werner needs to play every match.
Wow.
What I saw when Werner came on was, I mean, for lack of a better term, our offense for the last probably week has been very constipated.
Yeah.
All the balls go to Big Rom. I mean, fairly. He's been playing well. He chests it down. No one makes a run. Not a single person makes a run into the box. Timo needs to play every game. Timo's going to make that run. Timo's going to open things up. I can't tell you how many times I saw today, and I love Kai Havertz, and I love Mason Mount, but they get the ball. There's no overlap run on the outside. There's no inside run, from their counterpart. Timo opens up space. And he got the assist today. He got the assist to our guy, Striker Tony.
Yes. Big striker Rudy.
I don't think that Werner's primary role is goal scoring. I see him in an ideal situation playing where Havertz played today for a full 90. That's going to open up Big Rom with space. That's going to open up Alonso on the left with space. That's going to open up Kova with space. And he's going to play the ball to that far post where you're going to have a Mount, a Pulisic, a Kai, Dave. I for the amount that we paid with him, I know a lot of Chelsea fans want him to score, but that's not going to be his best contribution to the team. His contribution is going to be opening up play and distributing the ball, and that's why he needs to play every game. He needs to open the floodgates, be the prune juice to this constipated attack.
So I'll counter that question. I completely agree with you. The type of awareness that he commands from a defense is absolutely ridiculous. Like, he was making runs, and all of a sudden you had two defenders trying to go after him because he has so much pace. He can get into those tight areas. Again, I think he needs more confidence, but at the same time, I think he's one of those like 70-minute a match type players because we've all seen his work rate. Like he gets after it. There's no doubt about that. Can he go a full 90 doing that? Probably not, but that would be a perfect time to bring on, a Mount if he's not playing, or a Callum Hudson-Odoi, somebody with some pace and somebody who can kind of help create in that aspect. Should he play every game? I think that's a little asking, but I do see the value of having him, and I agree. I don't think his best role is going to be goal scoring, but at the same time, when that opportunity comes, he needs to be able to capitalize on it. And I think that's his biggest flaw, is that he has these chances and he should put them away. Being a striker for Leipzig, like, he was able to do work in the Bundesliga, but now he almost is just kind of out there running, and as soon as he gets the ball at his feet in the box, he kind of looks like a man defeated. He's like not really sure what he should do. I think that's going to take him a little bit of time, but if we're going to play him in that role where he's kind of running that wing and opening things up, then yeah, definitely. I think that he'll get his chances and he'll be able to kind of get over this slump that he's been in.
And like you said, I think that comes with playing.
Yeah.
What was the stat before today? He had played 9 minutes for Chelsea this year. It was some minuscule number. He needs to be on the pitch, and I think the more he is, the better it's going to be for our offense. But then again, I do see why Tuchel, it leaves him on the bench and saves him for the smaller matches. The Pikes Peak Blues at Pikes Peak _Blues mentioned that on Twitter to us that the only other forward listed on Chelsea's roster is Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
That's a forward.
Yeah.
I mean, bold move, but no, I think that with Timo, like, to me, he seems like a better second half sub than a full game type person, because if you bring him on in the 60th, 65th minute, whatever the case is, you bring him on later in the game, you have a tired defense because they've been trying to battle against Rom the entire game, and that is no easy task. And then you got somebody that you can just throw in with ridiculous pace who can just shoot all those gaps. Like, that defense is not going to be able to handle all that. I see him more as a second half sub that you can just throw on to completely change a game.
And speaking of defenses that are all over the place and can change a game, old man Thiago Silva.
Oh my!
Ooh, what a game!
I don't even know where to start.
Well, let's start with the fact that in 3 days he turns 37.
All right, so I'm going to separate this into halves. The first half, his defense, flawless. Absolutely flawless. He was making plays that people like half his age or 2/3 of his age, whatever, they would not make that play. He is so smart, and I think that's the most underrated thing. He is so smart with how he positions himself, with how he sees the game. He understands where he needs to be in certain situations, and that's just something that comes with experience. I mean, the defensive plays that he was making, I haven't seen that in, I can't even tell you how long. He was doing everything so well. All you could do was applaud because it was so good.
And the thing is, like you said earlier in the pod, this isn't against Norwich. This isn't against Burnley. This is against Harry Kane, England's number one, and Son, Korea's number one. But this is a great attacking team, and I can't remember a single time that Harry Kane did something that caught my eye in that game because Silva was on him. Son made one run, and I believe it was in the first half. Thiago just dove in. Nope, that's mine. It was fantastic.
And you're absolutely right. And, I don't remember hearing much about Son or Kane. I think Kane maybe got off one slightly deflected shot that Kepa saved, and I think that was it. If you noticed in the match, Harry Kane was picking up the ball at midfield. He was not in the attacking third for majority of that game. Like, we were able to shut him down, and Son, obviously, great pace. He's gonna do what he does, but Thiago just had him, and there were so many times where, Son could have just blown by him, but Thiago was in such great position. It was a masterclass. Like what he did to Tottenham, absolutely flawless. Like I've never seen a performance that profound as long as I've been watching football. Like the things he did today, like you only hope that somebody can do that, and he did it in every single way.
So he is on a 1-year deal. Next year he will turn 38, obviously in September. Do you re-sign him for another year?
Yes.
Not even a stutter there.
No, you absolutely sign him, because let me go back on that. As long as you can sign Rudy to be his counterpart, then yes. That is my only caveat to the whole thing, which we all know Rudy is a big question mark right now. Honestly, pay the man. Even if you're not a fan of like anything else that he does, just pay him, because Chelsea supporters love him. Like just pay him for that. I mean, he's going to make everything back in T-shirt sales and all that other stuff. But if I think the biggest mistake this year that Chelsea can make is if they let Rudy go for free in January.
Well, that's my next question. Now, there have been times where players have been sold in January to avoid the whole pre-contract situation. They've been sold for a fee so the club can ensure that they are getting their service, that they're not bidding against anyone else on the free agent market. What price point would you be okay with selling Rudy at? For reference, transfermarket.com, one of my favorite websites, has him listed at valued at about 30 million pounds.
That is absolutely ridiculous. I think if he gets around 70, then yeah, you can sell him. Like,
so basically you don't want him sold, is what you're saying.
No,
okay.
Not at all. I don't think anybody who is a Chelsea supporter wants him sold. Like, he is your classic bruising center back. Thiago is your craftsman. Christensen, who I thought played brilliant today. Rudy is just he's the bouncer at the club. If he doesn't want to let you in, he won't, and he'll make sure that you know that you're not allowed in. Like, that's just what he does. He's the enforcer. You don't have that with Christensen. You don't have that with Thiago. You don't have that with basically anybody else that's back there. So, like, you need that person to set the tone. And Rudy is that through and through. And obviously, me, Parker, we all talk about it. The runs that he makes and just pulling up from 30 yards out, love it. Like, he brings so much life to the game, and he defends. And I mentioned this before. Our defense resembles the Italian national team. They celebrate defensive stops, and Rudy is a massive part of that. He has no problem throwing his body in front of everything. If somebody pisses him off, he'll go after somebody and make sure that it's known, like, hey, don't come at me anymore. He makes that known, and Thiago won't do that, and everybody else. So you need that bruiser of a center back to kind of hold shape and to kind of make the other team know what's going to happen. And I think that is his biggest asset.
Absolutely. And one more point on the Spurs game, then we'll get into previewing City this week. That stadium is shit.
Yeah.
No response necessary on that. But that was my first impression of it. It's the first time I've seen a live game there. That's Jerry World down in Dallas. That's an NFL stadium. It's not a football pitch. The crowd was shit. The stadium's shit. Spurs are shit.
Very Spursy.
Yes, thank you. All right, so this week, midweek, Carabao Cup. We got Aston Villa yet again at home. Carabao Cup is so hard to predict because it's, for Villa it'll be a first team game. For us, it'll be let's see who in the youth can perform. So we won't get into that one too much. But Matt, are we through or not?
I think we squeak by. I think we're going to go with a little bit younger lineup. Maybe this might be a good chance to try out Pulisic after his kind of nagging injury. Maybe throw him on late in the second half, try and get him up to match fitness for the City game. But I think this is a time to kind of throw everybody else who hasn't been playing too much out there, and just kind of go from there. However, if we look back at the Villa game in the Premier League, that's going to be a different story, because if we're playing against that same team, which it is Aston Villa, they're probably going to be throwing out whatever they can in the cup to try and win a trophy. They might come at us the same way. I'm sure that Tuchel has a plan for that high press and trying to work out of it, and which is something that I think Chelsea really needs to work on, because teams are starting to realize that very quickly, that we are not great in a high press, especially when we always try to go to Jorginho and then have him try and do something, and he kind of hopes that he gets fouled in the process. But I think that we squeak by. I would say probably a 2-1 win. I think who's our third keeper?
Bettinelli.
Bettinelli, yes. I think he gets the nod. I think going against Villa in the third round of the cup, I think that's a good place for him. Either him or Kepa. Mendy is probably still going to be injured. I don't think you throw him out in a game like that. You save him and heal him up for City. But I think that it's going to be a younger lineup, a little bit more inexperienced lineup, and I think we pull away 2-1.
Yeah, and I actually agree. I had the same score written down, but the thing I'm most excited for is to see who's coming up from the PL2 team, who's coming up from the youth ranks, because I feel like we sold everybody from the youth team. So I'm excited to see who the next prospects are. I don't really care if we win or lose this game. I don't really care about the Carabao Cup, but I do think we do squeak by.
Yeah.
But the bigger match from the week is going to be, oh boy, the 6:30 a.m. Central Time match, Manchester City.
Yeah,
Matt,
I'll probably be over watching with you. I don't know. I mean, I from what I understand, or from at least what I can remember, City really hasn't played anybody.
Well, here's their rundown. Opening week, they lost 1-0 to Spurs. Then they rattled off 3 in a row. 5-0 against Norwich, bottom of the table Norwich. 5-0 against, at the time, bottom of the table Arsenal. 1-0 away to Leicester, and then they drew yesterday 0-0 with Southampton.
Yeah, Man City is they're kind of, to what you alluded to earlier, they're kind of getting to being like an aging team. And I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. Obviously, they have tons of talent. Obviously, with Jack Grealish getting over there, I think he's a fantastic player. But it's just, they have so many options. They're kind of like us. But is KDB going to play? Is he still coherent after the Champions League final and his clash against Rudy? Like,
is he going to have PTSD stepping on that?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things. It's like, is that going to affect his game? And it just, like, I'm looking at the lineup against Southampton that they threw out there, and I mean, it's a good squad, and obviously having Raheem Sterling as your number 9, I think was suspect, but yeah, I think Man City, they have a lot to offer. They have a lot to throw at you. They play a very similar way to the way that Chelsea does. If they turn over possession, they want the ball back right away. I think it's going to be a good game. I don't see it being like a barn burner, like a 3-3 or anything like that. I could see a 1-1 draw out of that whole thing.
Yeah, and I think as we alluded to earlier on the pod, our defense has bought in so much, and honestly, I think this game is Chilwell's first start. I think Alonso's too slow on the wing. I think this will be Chill's first start to deal with some of the pace and some of the creativity that they have on the wings. But I think outside of that change, I think you're pretty set with Thiago Silva, Tony, Christensen, and Dave. I think that if not shuts down, it'll limit City's attack. That being said, City's defense is pretty good in its own right. As I said, they've conceded 1 goal this year, and that was last month. It was over a month ago now. I see this one being 1-1. Even though it's at home, I'm completely happy with a draw against a team like City.
Oh, definitely. A Premier League contender. I mean, we held Liverpool to 1-1 down 10 men, in the second half. So I don't see why we can't do it again. I do think that if City scores, it's going to be on a penalty. We haven't given up a goal in open play yet. It's only been a penalty. I think, and I'll just outright say this, with the amount of diving that City is capable of, I wouldn't be surprised to see a penalty going for City, and then Chelsea have just a nice class goal. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. But I think we throw out, in a match like this, you have to throw out all the big boys, and that kind of that'll lead to my next question. Do you start Mason Mount?
No, not at all.
Who do you put in?
Hot take, Timo Werner. I think Timo starts. I don't think Pulisic starts. I think this would not be the match to get him back into the swing of things with. But I think Timo and Kai in support of Big Rom would be your best offensive threat.
Do you think a Ziyech instead of Kai would be a better option?
I don't think Ziyech plays enough defense. This is a match where you're going to need guys who can go box to box. I love Ziyech. Ziyech's my guy. But he is useless on our own end.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
So with that being said, we are pushing up against the hour mark here. So we'll give the listeners' ears a rest until next week. Final take for the pod, Matthew. Got any hot takes?
Any hot takes? Hot take would be, I think Reese replaces Dave halfway through the season as the starting right wing back.
All right, mark it down, Matt. That Reese for Dave.
Reese for Dave, halfway through the season, first person on the team sheet to play that right wing back position.
All right, and I'm going to go with Tuchel extends. I don't know if it's a hot take. Tuchel extends his winning streak against Pep, makes it 4 in a row on the weekend.
Oh, I love it.
All right.
So one other. So I will ask one other question. Do we get Rudy back before January? Do we get him to sign?
Absolutely. I think the club is just playing hard to get, essentially, at this point. I mean, they're already paying Kepa more than him. They're paying Christensen more than him. They'll pay the man. He's still under 30. I think it's just a matter of how long of a contract it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you have to sign the man. I mean, he does it all. He defends. He'll knock people out. Rest in peace, Kevin De Bruyne. And he scores goals, as we saw. Striker Rudy made his appearance. Love that man. You have to sign him. He is the enforcement that you need in that back line to make that defense work. So I think, whatever has to be done, he is somebody that you can't let go, especially for free. If you were to get him on if you were to do a transfer, fine, I can argue that point. But if you let him go for free, that's a whole different story, because he needs to be paid, and he has proved his worth time and time again. He is somebody that embodies what Tuchel is trying to do. I mean, if he was Italian, he'd be starting on the Italian national team and celebrating all the defensive celebrations that they have. So I think, you don't have a choice but to extend him for 3 or 4 years.
Absolutely. And we'd love to get everybody else's take on that. So if you have any questions for the pod, or if you have any insight as to anything that we talk about, you can certainly hit us up on all social media, or at least the ones that count: Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. All 3, we are at Flag Down Pod. We are now, as of this week, on all major platforms for podcasts. So you can find us on Google, Apple, Spotify, and Anchor. If you could, on Apple, oh boy, I've always wanted to say this: subscribe, rate, and review. Woo!
Hooray!
All right, Matthew, it's been a pleasure, and we'll chat again next week.
Sounds good. Always a pleasure, Andy.
All right, later, brother.
All right, later.